Hello, I'm out in the baby lavender field and everything is blooming, and you might actually, if you listen real close, hear the bees at work. This summer solstice, we had a freeze in Central Oregon, or at least the part that I live in. And I know many of you saw that a year ago in July, I planted with some friends this field of 1,300 lavender babies, and they were just the size of a coffee cup at that time. And then they were all shooting up their spikes to begin to flower this spring when we had a hard freeze. And what happened is that all of those beautiful spikes, and I'll get you close to them so I can tell you what I mean. These guys here, actually there's a little bumblebee. Those guys, there's a tender spot right there when they are growing, because they're growing like a half an inch like a day, and those tender spots froze and all the heads of the flowers just fell over. And it was really heartbreaking because we didn't notice, it took a couple days before it to show on the plants, and this entire field of lavender, all of the flowers were dead because that freeze happened in a really tender time of its growth. And I got really honestly, I got really pretty depressed. I felt really like all of that work and, the joy of having a lavender field is to see it bloom once a year. So, but me and my partner immediately realized that we could try to stimulate some new growth by trimming back all the plants because they were still in their spiking phase. So this big field, since all of the flowers were dead, Ramson took a hedge trimmer and spent about 16 hours trimming back all of these plants. And the other smaller field of 400 plants that have much bigger plants, some of them were in good shape, that were in the shade of our big tree, and other ones were completely nuked on the south side because that's where the cold came in from. So I had to hand trim those 400 plants so that I wouldn't damage the flowers that survived. It's a lot of extra time, a lot of tender loving care, and it felt stressful, and it also felt like we didn't know what the outcome would be. So I just wanted to bring you out here and show you that sometimes when harsh things happen and it creates more work and it throws off what your rhythm is, and you think it's meaning that it's a huge loss, listening to your intuition. Nobody knew what to do. This had never happened in Central Oregon. The people that have been farming lavender here for 30 years didn't know what to do. The USDA didn't know what to do because they didn't have experience with it. So we just went with our intuition, and Ramson's a real plant person. So we just said, they can't be harmed if we trim back what died. And what happened is they sent up twice as many flowers, and these plants look twice as old. Like I said, they were the size of a coffee cup, and maybe because you can see googs in this picture, you get an idea of how big the plants are. Here's my hand. See, the plants were the size of my hand at the beginning of the season. They went crazy between the freeze and the cutting back. They put off twice as many blossoms, and they're just blooming now, which is a month late. So all the bees are happy because they're getting a month more of food than they normally would this time of year from all the blossoms. So this Tune In Tuesday, I just wanted to encourage you to follow your intuition. Even if there's no proof, if there's nobody that can guide you and say, hey, we've done this and it works. Sometimes you just have to listen to your intuition and give it a shot. And the other lesson in it for me was to really notice how attached I had become to a certain way of a certain outcome. And I had to really surrender that outcome and make peace within myself. And once I made peace with what was, well, amazing recovery happened. So when it's not as smoky, I hope to get some wonderful pictures of this lavender field. It is just, it's its first year, so some of the plants that didn't make it, but we still had a really good survival rate. Probably lost 100 plants of 1,300, which is actually really minimal over the winter. And yeah, these plants are happy. They're buzzing with bees. And they're big. So listen to your intuition. And when life throws you a curveball, trust that something better than you can imagine could happen if you just follow your intuition and surrender to the fact that we're not in control.